So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second panel. My name is Aitolkyn Kourmanova. I'm a program associate here at the Central Asia program. I'm very happy to be moderating the second panel today, which is called Investing in People, Education Reform and Skill Development in Uzbekistan. And this is a really fascinating topic that we will continue to discuss. I think we already started in the morning to talk about how new policies in Uzbekistan can transform and empower people. And education is, of course, a very powerful tool to do that. And there are many reforms happening in Uzbekistan, so we'll be hearing from our speakers, and we have a great panel today. We have our Uzbekistan program fellow who will be speaking first, Nozimjon Ortiqov. He is a deputy director from the Center for Economic Research and Reforms, and he will be talking about his research on Uzbekistan higher education expansion, and he will ask the question, is there equality of opportunity? And I think Nozimjon will be joining us online through Zoom. Also, besides that, we have another wonderful speakers. To my left is Khayotullo Ismailov. He is also a speaker from Uzbekistan. He's a public diplomacy officer from Uzbekistan, from the Embassy of Switzerland in Uzbekistan. His topic is building the foundation of TVET reform in Uzbekistan, capacity building for sustainable skills development. And last but not least, of course, is Mehmet Tosun from University of Nevada. He will be talking about educating innovators, advancing entrepreneurship and capacity building in Uzbekistan. Welcome. I think we'll have a very good discussion. We will take the questions after all the speakers will finish with their presentations. And I'll just add a few words about our speakers, the bio of our first speaker, Nozimjon. I hope you can hear us. He's an economist and he's a policy analyst with over 10 years of experience supporting Uzbekistan's reform agenda through applied research and policy analysis. He's a deputy director of the Center for Economic Research and Reforms under the presidential administration of Uzbekistan, where he leads analytical work on macroeconomic forecasting, productivity and regional diagnostics, SME policy and reform evaluation together with international partners. And his fellowship project here actually focuses on intergenerational educational mobility in Uzbekistan and how education reforms can expand equality of opportunity across regions. Nozimjon, I hope that the connection is good, and the floor is yours.
Good evening from Tashkent. I think, is everything okay? My screen is visible?
Yes, everything is visible, sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction, Aya, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Nozimjon Ortiqov. I work at the Center for Economic Research and Reform in Tashkent. I'm very glad to be part of the Central Asia program as a fellow. Before I start, I want to say special thank you to this program, especially to Sebastian, Peros, and Aya for this opportunity and support during this fellowship. Today, I will speak about higher education in Uzbekistan, but I will look at through one specific question. When higher education expands quickly, does this also become more equal? So this question matters to me not only as a researcher, but also as a person who was born and raised in a small town, Uzbekistan. In many families, education is considered one of the main hopes for the social mobility. Parents invest time, money, expectation in their children's education. So when system expands, the natural question is whether this creates a wider path for all families, or mainly helps those who were already better positioned. Let me start why this question is important now. Uzbekistan has expanded higher education very quickly Okay.
Tap on his picture.
Yes.
Nozimjon, is it possible to expand your presentation a little bit?
Let me do this.
It's not fun.
Click on his picture. There it is.
Oh, we don't
No, we
see
don't
the
see his
screen.
presentation.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
just see his presentation.
Is it okay or still?
It's acceptable. All right, yeah.
Could you try just resharing it? I think we'll go back to how it was.
Oh, well.
Sorry about that.
All right, David.
How about now?
Yes, okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Lucia.
It's okay?
I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's okay. Sorry, Nozimjon, continue, please.
So Uzbekistan has expanded higher education very quickly since 2017, and this is one of the most noticeable part of the oh my god, one of the most noticeable part of the reform period. More institutions opened, enrollment increased, and more young people entered the tertiary system. So on the first part, story is very clear. Expansion happened, but second part is a little bit less clear. This is expansion reduce the role of family background. Our children from less educated families now moving up more easily. Is education system becoming more equal in practice, not only in size? This is a question behind my research, my presentation. So I want to be very clear from the start that this evidence is descriptive and associational. I'm not claiming that reforms cause some specific change in mobility, or because the data so far we have do not allow to have a kind of causal, doing causal statements yet. What I can do is, I hope, more modest but still useful, and I want to show the how strong link between parents' education and children's education is across three survey waves that I used for this paper. So before turning to those mobility numbers, it's useful to first see the size of the expansion in tertiary education in Uzbekistan. These three numbers show how large the expansion was during the past 5 years. The number of higher education institutions doubled on total enrollment increased, and now reached to 1.4 million students. And in relative terms also, number of students increased from 73 to 180 per 1,000 young people. And these are the kind of larger changes in a very short period of time, and it's important to highlight this as a real policy achievement. But scale is not the same thing as equal opportunity. System can become much larger, but still keep strong inequalities within it. So this is why I move from access numbers to mobility numbers. Before moving to survey evidence, one more point is important. The expansion was not same everywhere. As you can see from this graph, all regions have improved, but still starting points and ending points are different. And Tashkent city is excluded from this graph due to its unique idiosyncratic situation in education system. But the practical point is very simple. National expansion of tertiary education does not automatically mean regional convergence. From policy making, this matters a lot. If, for example, young people in different regions face different levels of access, preparation, or information, then the same national reform might have different outcomes across different places. So the expansion is real, but the question of equal opportunities remains open. This is where my research questions come in. So in this paper, I want to answer three questions. The first, how persistent is educational attainment across generation in Uzbekistan, and which household regional factors associated with mobility, and the last one is, what does the most recent survey suggest about household learning conditions during the COVID period? So the contribution for is as kind of having three-wave mobility profile for Uzbekistan using the Life in Transition survey data, which is conducted by EBRD, starting from 2010, 2016, and the recent one is 2022 and 2023. Again, for today's audience, I think the main value of this presentation would be this evidence gives us a kind of baseline evaluation of how educational opportunities stand, and helps us to ask whether future expansion is becoming more inclusive. So for my research, as I said, data came from these 3 rounds of Life in Transition survey, and I also used household budget survey as a context. And the main measure of this paper is rank slope. In simple terms, this rank slope measures how strongly parents' education rank predicts the child's education rank. Higher number means a stronger link between family background and educational attainment. So lower number means more mobility. So if one want to remember one technical idea from this presentation is this high rank slope means stronger persistent in education, in intergeneration persistence. So that means stronger parent-child education link. So with this mind, let me turn to the main findings of the paper. So message from this paper is a bit more careful. So this result, the paper's results show that family background still remains strongly associated with educational attainment in Uzbekistan, and persistence increases sharply by 2016 compared to 2010, and by 2022-2023 number is a little bit lower than 2016, but this decline is not statistically significant in economics terms. So that means the system expanded, but the so far available data do not show a clear weakening of parent-child education link. So in the next slide, I will show the main evidence behind this statement. So this is a kind of most important empirical slide, I would say. So in 2010, rank slope was 0.134. In 2016, it increased to 0.307, and in 2023, this slope, as we call, was 0.252, and this is lower than 2016, but difference is not statistically significant. In simple terms, this is with this sample size, we cannot rule out that nothing changed. I mean, as we can see, strongest result is increase from 2010 to 2016, but the later decline is a bit suggestive. We cannot confidently say that persistence fell during this period. And also, I want to mention also the important timing issue here. Many adults observed in 2022-2023 completed their education before the largest post-2070 expansion in tertiary education. So we shouldn't expect the full effect of recent reforms to appear immediately in our results. So that's why I don't say the expansion failed, but I also cannot say the expansion solved inequality issue. So the honest conclusion would be expansion happened, but we don't yet see a clear evidence of this intergenerational persistence have weakened. So next question is whether this pattern disappears when we account for other factors. And this slide asks whether family background factor disappears when we add controls. But result shows this factor does not disappear. And when I include basic demographic household controls, the linkage between parent education and child education still remains strong. And so in plain language, this means family background is not just a proxy for age or gender or region or rural urban location. For policy making, this is also important because this suggests that family background is not a small issue. It's central to understanding this educational opportunity. But again, this is just association. It tells us where inequality is visible, but it doesn't prove the exact mechanism behind this trend. So this pattern also looks different across places and age groups. So let me turn to this heterogeneity in places and age groups. As you can see from this chart, the pattern differs also by place. In 2022, in 2023, these regional estimates range from very low in Kharizm to about very high number in Tashkent city. The difference is very wide. And also urban persistency also higher than rural persistency. But this might look a bit counterintuitive. I mean, having higher urban persistency compared to rural one, but this likely reflects the very simple fact. Cities have more university-educated parents, and their children also reach university, and in the end, we might have this parent-child link is more visible at the top level of education. So, but it doesn't mean cities are less fair. When we look at the by age group, strongest movement appears among adults aged 34 to 44, but still we have to be very careful in terms of highlighting these facts, because these regional numbers and age groups have a very small sample size, but still this shows the variance between these different factors of the educational persistence. And so far I focused on these adult mobility patterns, and the next slide gives a smaller but useful also window to household environment behind those observations. This slide is about the COVID period. I include it because it shows something very important about household capacity. When schools closed, learning moved into the home during the COVID period, but homes are not equal in terms of learning environments. Some families have internet access, devices, or enough time and or might have adults who can help, but some families have fewer of these resources. In this Leeds Child module, which they included in the latest survey, the sample is small, so I treat this as an illustrative, not nationally definitive answer. But as you can see, the disruptions was very large. Many households reported education stopped or remote learning was difficult, and mothers were the main supporters in most cases. The broader point is family background also can shape educational outcomes before university entry. So if we want higher education expansion to produce equal opportunity, we also need to think about these factors like preparation, household support, or digital access earlier in the education pathway. So next slide shows household resource also differ in normal times. For this purpose, I used household budget survey, which kind of gives a broader context. As we can see, about 36% of household report positive education spending, 14% pays for tutoring, and about 15% receive remittances, around 80% have internet access. These numbers show that families are already investing in education, but they also show that resources are unequal. For example, tutoring or digital access can help students succeed, but not all households can provide them in the same way. So when we think about higher education expansion, we should also think about preparation before entry, support during study, and also the cost of completing educations. So more seats definitely are important, but seats alone do not remove information gaps or preparation gaps or financial pressure. So before moving to policy, I want to be clear about what this evidence from this paper can or cannot say. So first of all, this is a repeated cross-sectional data, not a family panel where we follow each family across time. This is a cross-sectional data, and secondly, as I mentioned, the most adults in the latest survey completed their education before the recent expansion, and the next caveat would be that the latest decline is also not statistically significant, and some subgroup estimates are based on small sample sizes. And another limitation also comes from the survey data. In 2010, the survey used a different parental education question, so that's why in 2010 baseline estimation might carry more uncertainty than the later waves. Even though I tried to do sensitivity checks, and our results still preserve this overall pattern. So that's why I wouldn't put or I don't interpret these results as a kind of causal reform evaluation. Data so far we have established how strong intergenerational persistence is in Uzbekistan, but they don't yet establish whether the latest expansion is weakening this trend. So the right conclusion would be we need to measure equality of opportunity more directly as expansion continues. So with those caveats in mind, what should policymakers take from this? I think the paper points to 3 practical priorities for the next reform phase. The number one is intervene earlier. Second is we should judge education expansion not only enrollment but also by completion. And the last one is we should build a routine equity monitoring system. So let me take them one by one. So the number one priority is, as I said, intervene earlier. So disadvantages do not start at university entry, it starts much earlier. So by the time students apply to higher education, many inequalities have already accumulated. So policy should focus on key transition points in education system. For example, after grade 9 or at grade 11 completion, or in the first year after entry to the tertiary or professional pathways. This might include academic support, guidance, or information for families, or targeted help for rural and first-generation students. So, number 2 is we should judge this expansion by who enters, who stays, and who finishes. The enrollment is definitely important, but completion also matters more for mobility. A student who enters but cannot continue because of weak preparation or financial pressure or lack of support does not receive the full benefit of expansion. So the system that we need to build is to track retention and also completion, not only admission.
Nozimjon, I'm very sorry to interrupt. You just have another 2 minutes maybe, and we have to wrap up.
Okay. So let me close to the returning to the main message. So Uzbekistan higher education expansion is real and is a major policy achievement. It created new capacity, new opportunities, but this expansion is not sufficient. So far available evidence shows that family background still strongly associated with educational attainment, and but this doesn't mean the reforms failed. It means we need better and more regular evidence on who benefits from expansion. And with that, I would like to conclude, and thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Nozimjon. It was really very interesting, a very detailed presentation. Please stay with us because we will take questions at the end of the panel, as I said. And let's move to our second speaker, Khayotullo Ismailov. Khayotullo Ismailov is a public diplomacy officer at the Embassy of Switzerland in Uzbekistan. He graduated with honors in international relations from the University of World Economy and Diplomacy, and holds joint master's program in parliamentary procedures and legislative drafting from the School of Government Louis in Rome, Italy, Madrid, Spain, and London, UK. Mr. Ismailov worked in integrative multidisciplinary departments at the UNDP, World Health Organization, and the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, where he worked to develop revenue-generating projects, monitoring project completion, and conducting topical research. Very impressive biography, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, the biography is all the time impressive, but hopefully the presentation will be the same. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hopefully I'll be very quick, but at the same time very informative. Since we're talking about the education today, it's also my pleasure to be in Washington, D.C. and to share some information and insights from Uzbekistan. Before starting, I would like to express my gratitude to the SAP, to this school and the DW and the professor and his team for their excellent job and to bringing us all together here. And today I would like to take you all through a very simple question: and how do you think the country which is reforming and growing itself at the same time, rebuilding itself, can sustain a skilled system? And why, in this process, the real issue is not the expansion, but its capacity. So, as already mentioned by many speakers before, Uzbekistan is one of the youngest countries in the region of Central Asia, with more than 60% of the population under the age of 30. Just imagine why this matters, what this means for the labor market of the country in the next decades. This is very much a demographic advantage of the country, but at the same time, if the system will not convert people into skills, this is going to be a huge problem economically. And that is why here the TVET is the central area, and just for your information, many of you were surprised to see my position. You know, I'm here to presenting my personal capacity. I'm very much education passionate, and also author the education content on social media, which is under the name of Khayotullo. So I'll be happy to see you all there too. So to understand today's challenges for Uzbekistan, and we have to look back at the system's evolution. Uzbekistan used to have a very large and centralized system of professional colleges and license. And in 2017, I think many of the speakers are talking about this date of this year, you know, when Uzbekistan was opening up itself to the world. Exactly, the system of TVET was also fundamentally reset. And since 2019, the country has been rebuilding itself with a new and a more flexible system, which is a very good sign. And so we are seeing today, it's not just the reform, but also the system in still transition. And today's system, as I said, very much flexible, and the system itself is diverse and evolving. And it includes the technicums, model centers and universities, and also the supported by the government, also by the international community, acting most of the time as donors. But this is also creates the complexity. So let me ask you one question. How many actors are too many for one system? Because here the coordination becomes the real challenge, and most of the times we will ask one question: who takes the responsibility, and who's the main locomotive for the whole system? So, and this regard brings us to the core issue. This brings us to the core issue. The problem is not the direction of the reform, which is by the many experts. It is Uzbekistan on the right path, but its implementation is the real problem here. Uzbekistan is expanding the system, but the capacity is not growing with the same path of the expanding system itself. So without strong institutions, teachers and the governance, expansion alone cannot produce the real skills that we need. And here we can also see clearly in this data, this data was taken by the research database of Zurich, which is in Switzerland, and Switzerland acts as one of the donors in Uzbekistan in supporting the reforms on TVET in Uzbekistan, piloting already in many regions of the country. You can see almost all firms and companies reporting the skill shortages, and yet most of them they not provide the training themselves. So we have a problem, which is a very classical one. So everyone needs skills, but no one is taking the full ownership and responsibility for this whole process. And this is very much coordination misuse and misadvantage. And now, before I move on, I would like to ask the kind help of Ravan, because I want to show you a short example of how this is being addressed in practice. Just for your information, this is the short clip from TVET Forest project, supported by one of the donors, which is the Swiss Development Corporation, focusing on work-based learning and practical skills.
O'zi dual ta'lim haqida shu texnikumdan eshitganman. Birinchi marta kelganimda shu yerda bor ekan dual ta'lim. Dokumentlarimni topshirganimdan keyin suhbat asosida o'tganman o'qishga. Dual ta'limda o'zi 2 kun o'qish va 3 kun amaliyot. Dushanbadan chorshanbagacha amaliyot o'taymiz. Payshanba va juma kunlari o'qish bo'ladi bizda. Shanba va yakshanba dam olish. Men hozir amaliyotni To'ron plazada o'tyapman. Bizni har hafta har xil bo'limlarga o'tkazishadi. Hozir men resepsiyondaman. bizda texnikumda 2 kun dars bo'ladi va 3 kun amaliyot bo'ladi. Men esa shu texnikumda o'tilgan darslar bilan amaliyotda o'shani sinab ko'rib bajarishim mumkin. Amaliyotda bizni o'zimizning ustozlarimiz bo'ladi. Shu amaliyotda barcha sohalarda bizda o'rgatishadi. Bizda dual ta'limda sharoitlar, o'qishda erkinlik, yana ish bilan ham ta'minlashi mumkin, yana boshqa davlatlarga yuborishi mumkin. Dual ta'lim o'zingga albatta yoqadi, chunki ish tomonlama ham, o'qish tomonlama ham hammasi yaxshi, chunki bir vaqtda ikkalasini ham olib borsa bo'ladi. O'qishni bitirganimdan keyin o'zimni shaxsiy mehmonxonamni ochmoqchiman. O'zim bir ikkita tanishlarim bor, o'rtoqlarim bor, ishsiz. O'shalarni men bilan birga ishlashni xohlayman. Shuning uchun o'zimni shaxsiy mehmonxonamni ochmoqchiman. Mendan keyingilarga hech qachon taslim bo'lmasliklarini aytib qolaman. Chunki o'qisa, albatta harakat qilsa, hamma narsaga erishsa bo'ladi.
So what you see here exactly where the system is trying to go, and for those who didn't understand because of unfortunately the subtitles were too small, basically this is Hojakbar. He's the representative one of the piloting regions, which is Bukhara, the central part of Uzbekistan. How he's the student of dual system. It's a piloting project by one of the donors in the country. So it's a practical training where the closer cooperation with employers and the real skills development. But the key question is not whether the system works, but the key question is whether they can be scaled across the entire system, across the whole country. This is where the real another challenge begins. The scaling requires the strong employer and the government engagement, which is still limited in the country. So employer associations are still developing, and the businesses are not yet fully integrated into training systems. So to say, that it's not on the governmental level, but with this now, Uzbekistan trying to integrate the PPP in this regard too. And as you know, without employers, the skills system cannot function. Another dimension I would like to add. Thank you. It's the migration. As you might know, millions of Uzbek citizens often work abroad, and often it is their potential. It's below their potential. This tells us something important. The migration itself is not just the labor outcome, it's a signal of how the skill system performs. But this is also an opportunity for the country. Uzbekistan can move from exporting the labor, but exporting to the skills, the professional skills. But the good news that Uzbekistan has, amongst the many, the solution already exists from the historical perspective. The dual system, as you know, globally shows the strong results, and Uzbekistan has its own tradition, which is called Ustad and Shagird, apprenticeship, the master and the mentor and mentee system. And what we saw in the video with Hojakbar, who's from Bukhara, this is the example of this approach. This approach is being tested within the country, taking into consideration the international best experiences. So now the task for Uzbekistan is to bring this into one coherent system. So let me close with one simple message. Uzbekistan is moving in the right direction in terms of reforms. But the next stage is not about building more institutions, but it's about building the stronger ones. And because in the end, as you can see and read, ladies and gentlemen, a skills system is not measured by how many students it can enroll, but how many people it actually prepares for real work. So I thank you very much, and I look forward to the suggestions and questions during the formal and informal caucuses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Thank you. And let's move to our last speaker, last but not least. Dr. Mehmet Tosun is the Chief International Officer of the University of Nevada, Reno. He is also a Professor of Economics and the Director of the Uzbekistan Center for Entrepreneurship and International Business Programs in the College of Business. Dr. Tosun received his PhD in economics from the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University. His research and teaching interests and expertise include public finance, particularly tax policy, regional economics, including entrepreneurship and business government relations. He holds the Barbara Smith Campbell Distinguished Professorship, received numerous awards and recognitions, including the honorary ambassadorship at the CGH Warsaw School of Economics in Poland, the Ibn Khaldun Prize from the Middle East Economics Association, and the Global Engagement Award from the University of Nevada, among many others. It's been very impressive. Thank you very much for being here. And
thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for being here today. And I will be talking about I will say, like, a slightly different, thing. I mean, the keyword will be entrepreneurship, but I think it ties very well to the previous two, and especially the previous presentation. I'll start with this. It's always about people, right? So the human capital, people, very important. So I want to talk about three things today. So the first thing is like why entrepreneurship, or why entrepreneurship education. So that's, of course, like very important. Now the second one, I mean, there are a lot of people, I'm sure, like in the audience that knows this better than I do, because like you are from the region, or like you've been working with Uzbekistan the economy for a long time. But I'd like to provide a quick snapshot of the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem in Uzbekistan, just with like a couple of slides, and then finish up with the identifying some gaps that actually will, let me kind of like provide some examples about like what we're doing regarding our global engagement efforts around entrepreneurship. That could be, I think, way, to work with different partners in Uzbekistan. So let's start with the first one: why entrepreneurship? Why entrepreneurship education? Well, again, it's about the people. So the first point is really the important one here. Innovation ecosystems depend on people. And sometimes when you hear people talk about entrepreneurship innovation, you always hear about like dollar signs. So capital, putting finance, the financial side. And I'm not going to, of course, minimize it at all, right? So like that's very important. So it's a lot about the dollar signs. But it really depends on the people, and that needs to be emphasized. So we need to start with that. So providing, skills, mindsets, and entrepreneurial mindset, and then taking it to institutions, and I'll refer to the first panel about the institution, very important. It's not just about finance. Entrepreneurship is about knowledge creation. So I'll mention this. Entrepreneurship feeds knowledge creation, and knowledge creation feeds entrepreneurship, right? So there's this, interesting and very rich relationship between entrepreneurs and knowledge-based knowledge creation and knowledge spillovers, as we say, because knowledge doesn't stay where it is created. It basically moves, especially nowadays, with the globalized, world economy, with the AI, it moves very quickly. Also spatial spillovers. I mean, even though, the world flat argument that like, hey, it doesn't matter where you are, but it kind of matters, doesn't it? So, agglomeration of economy is very important. So like for those that study, and I teach regional economics and public economics, we talk about agglomeration a lot. So, being close to these big centers that drive activity, right? Like technoparks, industrial, parks. That really matters, because that spatial spillover, make your kind of like city region grow much more quickly. Proximity to educational institutions. So a big role for the universities. So I put in bold research labs, entrepreneurship centers, very important to entrepreneurship innovation ecosystems. And at the end, I'll just like point out this important relationship. Entrepreneurship to startup activity, to innovation, and then healthy communities, and then finally, of course, development and growth. So you can look at entrepreneurship as almost like an engine of growth. So I know like economists don't talk about the engine of growth in terms of entrepreneurship. It's about labor, capital, human capital, but I think entrepreneurship plays a big role in terms of growth of regions, growth of countries. So regarding the healthy communities part, I mean, I'm just gonna, again, being the economist, I have to, give you some data, some stats, graphs. So this is for those that use data as an econometrics tool. This is from this is a data graph. So I've done this like with a student of mine some time ago. You find interesting relationships, including the fact that innovation, entrepreneurship can actually bring healthy communities, right? So the Census Bureau has this definition of high-risk communities. And when you look at the scatter plot that looks at the average share of high-risk communities in different states, so like those bubbles, the circles are states specifically, and then correlate that with the a measure or proxy for entrepreneurship and innovation, and a very typical measure is the number of patents per capita basis. I mean, you see a negative relationship. Like in places that provide more entrepreneurship and innovation, ends up with less high-risk communities, which means like more healthy communities. So, so there's the importance of that. So that explains the why entrepreneurship part. I know it's very quickly done, but that I think makes the point. So the second important thing, the snapshot about the startup ecosystem. So that first thing that is put in quotation marks, that's not me saying it. That came from the Startup Genome Project. I don't know how many of you have seen those reports. I've been, being an entrepreneurship center director, I have to look at, what's going on in entrepreneurship. So Startup Genome is providing very good information and ranking of ecosystems. And this is what they said: Central Asia's fastest rising startup ecosystem. And of course, which country is it referring to? So Uzbekistan, right? So for the first time, it was included in the Global Startup Ecosystem Report in 2025, which is of course something very important to see. And again, it is recognized. A nice article in the report about Uzbekistan, and they don't have articles about like every single country in the world. So I'll say that that's special for Uzbekistan, and identified as the fastest growing startup ecosystem. Early stage funding, and I know like that's small, that those numbers look small, but you're talking about like very early stage funding increase from less than $1 million, 0.3 million to 69.5, almost 230-fold increase in a pretty short period of time. That's pretty amazing from my perspective. And the ecosystem value over $1.2 billion in 2025, and that's the part that I was actually talking to somebody in the audience earlier today. That first unicorn, I did not know much about it. Uzum, in Turkish we say üzüm, right? Which I was told that, well, like, yeah, it is actually, it means grape, which of course is the same meaning, and it is kind of a bit of a reference, or I guess a comparison to apple. We have apple in the US, and you have üzüm, the grape, in Uzbekistan. Great job there. So the first unicorn. So that means that there's a demonstration of scale potential, which is very important for these emerging ecosystems. Of course, we have to be careful. Many startups, startup versus scale up. So many startups remain at the startup stage, that early prototype stage. Scaling up is very important, and I'm going to mention this, of course, a little later as well. Regarding the place of Uzbekistan, and I know maybe I shouldn't be talking about the doing business surveys because it's a little bit controversial. World Bank ended doing this back in 2020, I think. But I was curious, so I just looked at the numbers. Uzbekistan's ranking is not very high in terms of the global rank, but look at the one about starting business. that 8th ranking is actually not in the region. The 8th ranking is in the world. So it is ranked number 8 in the world. And what are some of the drivers? It is about the number of procedures, the time that is required, like, you know, to start a business, cost, minimum capital requirements, and things like that. So that's a really good number, a really good ranking. So again, that's pointing to this great potential over there. The talent and education base, I think there's a panel about demography later on, so I'm not going to spend too much time, but I'm just going to point one thing. So you already know this thing. The median age of 27, so for someone that has actually looked at demography, actually that was my dissertation research from graduate school. The last time the US had a median age of 20, something in the 20s was in the 1950s and 60s. Right now we're almost at 40. That's the US. So a median age of 27, a young, you know, vibrant population. So like there's definitely a potential for a big demographic dividend. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You want to make sure that it doesn't turn into a demographic curse. Dividend versus curse. You want the dividend part, right? So, but that's you know, well above replacement level, fertility rate of 3.4. But again, I mean, you need to be able to give those young people something, you know, so that they will succeed. The job opportunities, again, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial skills, and so on. So a lot of universities, a lot of international institutions, more partnerships, including hopefully partnerships at my institution in the future. So some gaps. So that's the final part in my presentation. Technical skills is not equal to business skills. So that's a big takeaway there. Because I see, you know, like people and universities, you know, countries, regions do this mistake. Let's just invest in science, engineering, technical side. Again, that's very important. I'm not going to minimize that at all. But at the same time, if you are doing that without really paying attention to commercialization, you know, venture skills, right? So like, which means people having entrepreneurial skills, you know, having entrepreneurs, you know, help with that commercialization, you'll run into problems. You know, you need to expand the entrepreneurial education in universities. You need to work on that commercialization part. So I know for sure, because like I'm 3 hours away from Silicon Valley, right? Investors over there, everybody has excellent technical skills. Everybody's an engineer, everybody's a scientist and everything. So that, but they are, the way to impress them is not going to be with just with the technologies, but with the business models and the promise for scaling, right? So readiness for scaling is very important. So like that's usually get lost in translation, so that's why I wanted to emphasize that. So what could be done, or what should be done here? Not the generic entrepreneurship classes. We're not talking about traditional lecturing, traditional classes, right? So professors can get really boring, I know that. I'm one of those that sometimes do too much lecturing, and but we need to move towards universities, you know, doing something a little bit different, so including, of course, Uzbek universities. You know, they supply talent, of course, that's the basic education part, but hosting incubators and accelerators, and then global connections, you know, creating global networks, experiential learning, you know, type programs. So problem to solution to market fit, exposing their students and entrepreneurs to global markets. So creating this, what some call the triple helix model of innovation, right? University, industry, and the government working together. So tying the mentorship to industry, to policy, interconnected system as opposed to just isolated initiatives. Do one but not the other one. You know, one of the legs is missing and it doesn't work. Okay, so some examples. This is actually a very nice program we did 3 years in a row with Azerbaijan. So that's why, like, you know, I think technically not a Central Asian country, but you know what I mean. So culturally, you know, geographically very close to Uzbekistan and Turkey. So we did a international startup school that involved the Center for Analysis of Economic Reforms and Communication, you know, which is a government agency in Azerbaijan, and their Enterprise Azerbaijan platform, and my center, the ASM Center for Entrepreneurship, we did an excellent startup school. As soon as we advertised this, we had more than 200 applications in the first week. I said, like, wow, what a wonderful interest coming from the young people to be in this. So we did virtual classes with a grand finale in person in Azerbaijan, in Baku, and ended up also doing some themes. So this one was about AI and green solidarity, which means sustainability, climate change related. We got such great response that I really love this project, and I'll very highly recommend doing something similar to this, and hopefully maybe with my institution. And you see the picture, of course, from Istanbul, the famous bridge, which goes by my name, so the Fatih Sultan Mehmet Bridge. I cannot get too much credit for it. So we have also connected different partners. The one partner in Istanbul and one in Warsaw doing a workshop series. A few other things, hackathons, study abroad programs that focus on entrepreneurship. So the one we did in Warsaw, which is the one you see on your far right, we actually took students to Google campus. So Warsaw has one of the 6 Google campuses in the world. So we took students there, and then they did hands-on, directly working with startups. That's the kind of training I'm talking about, not traditional entrepreneurship classes, but hands-on, practice-oriented classes. I know I'm running out of time, so I'm just gonna talk about maybe skip this one because this is showing our overall student entrepreneurship model. But mention this success story that we had. A lot of times, universities and people say that, well, hey, giving students a few dollars won't work. Well, here's an example where it actually worked in a big way. Those 2 guys were MBA students in our university, and they actually met in the MBA program, and they competed in our entrepreneurship competition program in 2014, right? So called Dragonfly Energy, that was the name. Lithium-ion batteries, lithium is the big thing these days. We have a Tesla gigafactory very close by in our city, and and actually they didn't win the competition, by the way. They didn't win that $50,000 check, but they still launched their business with our help. And at the end, those are just the very few success numbers regarding their employees and the production facilities. They did their IPO roughly about 5 years after this happened. Guess what the market valuation of the IPO was? $100 million market valuation. 2 MBA students within 5 years, and this is not Silicon Valley, this is Reno, Nevada, right? So it could happen, right? So that's the thing that, well, we should also give confidence to the students that, well, something that you do can hit really big. So much that now they're actually giving back. So they actually added a $10,000 innovation award. Imagine that, right? So 2 students that came from nothing, came up with this idea and then put it together and then received success and then started giving back to the region, to the community. So that's very important. This is my last slide. So I always say this. So again, not many people know about Reno, Nevada. We're not Las Vegas, but what we are trying to do there, I think would be a great model for Uzbekistan. Here's the reason why. In Nevada, we have a very similar landscape to Uzbekistan. So we have steppe or desert type, high desert. They call it high desert climate. But we have lots of lakes and rivers, just as you do in Uzbekistan as well. There's a university, that's a picture of our campus. Well, you see a Tesla gigafactory, which I'm not doing to kind of advertise for Tesla, but that's in that industrial agglomeration that I'm talking about that created these spillover effects. And then the city. So what we are trying to do is to have this integrated approach to having the city, the university, bringing the natural beauty and then market it that way to the outside world. Because it is also it's not just about technical skill, but it's also not just about, entrepreneurship innovation. You need to, worry about and you need to work on and you need to market the quality of life. in your vision. That's very important. So, like, for Uzbekistan and the Uzbek institutions, a similar approach regionally. I mean, maybe not, countrywide, but similar approach, like, with specific, locations within Uzbekistan, like having this kind of integrated approach. In my opinion, it could work really well. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. So we have about 10 minutes maybe or so before our lunch, and that's, lunch is always a good opportunity to talk. Yes, questions, please.
Oh, okay. No microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, this was fascinating. Congratulations to each presenter. But you're valuing each.
Sorry,
Who am
mic is
I?
not on.
Technology. Yes? First of all, I want to congratulate every speaker. Each of you brought real insights and valuable information. Why am I even here? My name is Minty Reiser. I had the chance to do some training long ago. I worked in Central Asia. The projects were AID financed and others. I've worked for the Fulbright program. Remember that? Things have changed. I also am on the board of something, the Labor and Employment Relations Association. It's national. We have a DC chapter, so check it out. What are the questions? There is an incredibly interesting spectrum of needs in Uzbekistan, from folks who are doing industrial work, what we call blue-collar workers, up through the entire spectrum to AI people, really high-qualified computer IT people. Okay, question is the various ways you train them. Nobody has spoken to, and I don't know what it's really like, in terms of places like libraries, where people can come and learn, informal education, working with the media, creating various peer groups. You've talked about entrepreneurship, that's very valuable. What about public health as a stream of employment and as a very interesting contribution? So you have so many areas to work on. We haven't even talked about education abroad, having people come back, why come back. And again, something of a backlash against AI, against data centers. Is there an Uzbek model talking about your culture and your vision? Many questions, so each of you could address it.
Thank you very much. Who wants to start?
If Nozimjon is still there, I think he's in the best capacity.
Do you want the mic?
But you can go ahead.
So, thank you very much for the comments and question that you asked. I think, yes, the PPTs could be more comprehensive and touching upon the, as you mentioned, the public health and education abroad. And nowadays, I think the young people of Uzbekistan, they also have, they divided into two camps. One, they really want to, study abroad. I'm just talking about the education abroad. They just want to study abroad and stay there because, not necessarily they have the confidence or the belief, and maybe, in some extent, it's the trust in the system. But some of them, as it was also mentioned by Ms. Davletova before. Some of the people, they're going through the foundation, which was created and initiated by the Uzbek government, which is called the Aitolkyn, the Hope of the Nation. There, they also have the certain contracts, to be signed with the future student. Most of the times, they do invest in the world's top-ranking universities, and they have the contract. They have to come back to the country. And if it's a bachelor degree, they have to, let's say, give back to the community. This is kind of a system. They have 5 years. For the master's degree, it's up to 3 years. But at the same time, the students, they also have the will. And if they would like to, let's say, the student came to the States, and he or she studied in Harvard or any Ivy League that we have. Most of the times, Uzbeks, they love big names and brands. And if they want to stay in the States, of course, they succeed with the authority here. And if they do, they have to alert the foundation that they want to stay, and then they have to give back the taxpayers' money. So let's say if he or she studied in Harvard, for 2 years or 1 year, whatever year it is, and it's a master's degree, they have to give back those 2 and 3 and 5 years, the money, the financial aspects of their studies, back to the country.
Scholarship.
It's abolished, exactly. The Kazakh and Uzbek, I mean, this Bolshak and Ilyutumida, almost the same thing. I mean, in the regions, these are the big ones. This will be my point to the question, and I hope I could cover it partially.
Does the government put up the funding for the student to study abroad?
They do, on the basis of the taxpayers' money, yes.
Anybody else want to respond?
Yeah, anybody else wants to?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for the question. So I think I will also emphasize the importance of not just like study abroad, like education abroad, like through like Fulbright program, that we have, or Erasmus program that European, I believe Erasmus Plus also could involve like Uzbek institutions. So that's an opportunity, but also short-term programs. So we have, I think, benefited a lot, and it's also because it's easier to do. Like these faculty-led programs on both ways, right? So it is important for us to, by the way, like take our students, the American students, abroad, and yeah, they all want to go to England, they all want to go to Australia because they speak English easily. We tell them, well, like try different cultures. Like we have one of the oldest mining schools because Nevada is a mining state. In the U.S. So a mining program, our mining programs could actually work together, and then you can have students going back and forth. So we need both ways. So like education abroad, study abroad, could be both ways. So attracting Uzbek students is great. We will love that. It actually adds to the diversity, but we need to take our students over there. I'm pretty sure like there are many things we can learn. Our students can learn from, like being there as well. So like I think that, cultural, economic, academic interaction, could be mutually beneficial.
Thank you very much. Nozimjon, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think that Professor touched upon a lot of issues. Maybe I would mention, like, in terms of libraries, places that people come and kind of interact with each other. I think the one kind of, I would like to highlight one project that came from the bottom up, the Mahalla district, at the Mahalla level, which is a kind of the smallest unit of region in Uzbekistan, is so-called, we have these libraries where the local leaders organize and libraries, and this was initiative which were kind of expanded across whole the region, financed by banks, and right now a lot of interest among these younger generations for kind of libraries, which used to be a kind of dull places in the past. So just would like to mention this point also.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, we will wrap it up then. So we have a lunch until 1:45.
45 minutes.
1:45, and let's give a round of applause to our speakers. Thank you very much.